Aloha.
Aloha. Welcome to Cardinalli Culture Corner.
Say that 3 times fast.
That.
Oh.
Is your phone on Do Not Disturb? I remembered.
I didn't know.
So you don't have all these pings and bangs and booms. So I am Ali Cardinalli with my daughter, Nina Cardinalli.
I didn't know if you were going to introduce me or not.
I
It
wasn't
sounded
going
like
to.
you were.
I wasn't going to. So in Cardinalli Culture Corner, we bring to you 2 very different perspectives of various topics in the performing arts. And this week, we're going to talk about blind casting. What is blind casting?
I prefer the term color conscious casting.
Okay, but let's talk about what blind casting is.
It's the general idea of casting people in shows completely blind without considering their race or gender or ability.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you can cast someone in a wheelchair that would not normally, that's not necessarily written for someone who's in a wheelchair, or you can cast a boy in a girl's role, or someone who is Asian in a typically white role, or Black in a typically Jewish role, etc.
Yes, and that specifically is why I prefer the term color conscious casting, because I do think that there are shows in which race does need to be taken into account.
Hence today's topic.
Smooth transition.
We have a hello in the comments. Hello. So we're gonna talk through this, and why is it important that we use the term color conscious color conscious casting? Why do we need to use that term instead of blind casting?
Because there are roles that need to be played by specific races, and having, like, say, putting a white person in a show like The Color Purple.
Oops.
That is then erasing the story of a person of color, because shows that are revolving around people of color and shows that are the stories of people of color need to be told by people of that color.
I agree.
Otherwise, it's erasing the fact that it is the story of a person of color.
Now, Nina and I greatly disagree on the topic of Grease. So we're going to talk about that.
We're going to have a lot of arguments in this one.
Yes. Like, it's a problem. So I believe that it should not be a color conscious casting, or it is color conscious. You need to just be white. The only role that could be of color, I guess you could maybe have a couple people in the ensemble, but you have to have a couple. Maybe, but that's pushing it. I think you can't. The only person that can is Teen Angel.
Okay.
Or the DJ, the hand jive baby, which is usually sometimes played by the same person. But yeah, that's it. That is it.
Okay.
It's a time in history where there's segregation, and it's not okay to not acknowledge that.
So, the gray area in Grease comes from a lot of the roles of the leads. I.e., if you cast a woman of color as Rizzo, and then you don't have any other minorities in the show, if you can't tell, I'm a little bit salty about that. My college was supposed to do Grease in the spring. My heart goes out to the people of Marymount who've been rehearsing for that for months, only for the show to get canceled. But I was called back for Rizzo, which I saw the callback list and was like,
So here's a problem for those of you that are like, oh, it would sound amazing on a possibly African-American voice or a person of color's voice. First of all, Nina sings like a princess. She doesn't sound stereotypically Black. But with the role of Rizzo and a couple of other roles in the show, Cha-Cha, if they are sexually charged roles, then it perpetuates a negative stereotype. And we don't want to do that, especially since that's not what the story is about.
Yeah. And in Greece, when I was called back for that role, they only called back women of color for that role and basically didn't call back any minorities for any other role.
Don't do that. But I have a problem because it seems like the only role out of the leads that it could possibly be okay without changing the story is Jan.
I mean,
you can't do the other girls because then you have sex, willing to change themselves, not smart, and flunks out of school. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I think the willing to change themselves thing is a little bit.
Well, it's a sexist, terrible show anyway. But
yeah, how about instead of trying to cast Grease blind, we just don't do Grease. No one do Grease. Grease is a bad show. Don't do Grease.
Don't do it anymore. Or do it in outer space.
Just don't do it. Outer space won't make it better.
I love the songs in Grease, though. I've done Grease 3 times.
It's the role I will do forever. That's unfortunate. I'm so sorry.
It's literally the only show my husband has said, I wouldn't be mad if you didn't do that show again. I just keep getting cast.
Nobody do Grease.
But so we're going to move on from Grease, and we're going to talk about another show of that time period, and that's Hairspray. And I've noticed that there are quite a few high schools that try to do Hairspray blind.
The entire plot of Hairspray revolves around the fact that there are these 2 different races.
It's a problem.
You can't have a white person being like Negro Day and then just have a bunch of more white people walk out.
You can't do that.
What?
You can't do that. You can't do that. You literally can't do that. Also sticking an Asian in and be like, they're black. No, they're not. They're Asian.
Not all minorities are the same.
So you can't do that. That's a no-go.
Correct.
Another one that I thought about that I'm okay. I'm definitely okay with blind color cast or color conscious casting, except for one role is Once on This Island. T Moon has to be black because it's literally talked about.
Yes, correct.
It's preferred that everybody is of island, Haitian, Dominican Republic, color palette, but because it is about telling the story from generation to generation to generation, I'm okay with that as long as the directors are clear about framing it so it's not offensive and it doesn't take away from the races that are represented.
And here's my argument with that. Beyond just like, there aren't a lot of roles for people of color. Just let them have that. But here's my argument for that is that, yes, T Moon needs to be black because it is talked about, but the reason she needs to be black is because she comes from these people. And it's talked about with...
What does she come from the ocean?
With, what's his face? Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
The whole reason that there is this issue with Daniel is because they when they're telling the story of the of them, it becomes an issue that his lineage is mixed.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you cast like the Islanders as people who are not people of color, then that no longer really makes sense because the whole thing is that like it is these people of color and then it is the rich white people.
Mm-hmm.
And then that little bit of mix is where it becomes a problem.
Now, I saw a show where Andrea was darker than T Moon.
That's problematic. Yes, correct.
Don't do that. That was a whoopsie because it's literally, again, that section of the show is about race.
Correct.
So that's, big whoopsie. So we have a bunch of shows on our list that we're going to talk about, like good, not good, when it comes to like color conscious casting. So I am not a fan of. I don't hate the show, but I'm not a fan of Hamilton just because I don't like rap. And there's a lot of people that don't like musical theater-y songs. So remember that in theater, there's a plethora of music types. There's something for everybody.
Me being a theater person in high school, in the age that I was a theater person in high school, I naturally went through a Hamilton phase, as we all. But
well, how come Hamilton? And I like what Nina has to say about this. How come Hamilton can be color conscious?
2 reasons. One, there were a lot of people of color who were involved in that story, and their roles in that time period are erased from American history in the way that it is conventionally taught. And 2, the whole idea of Hamilton in concept is the story of people then told by people now, and the way that people are now and exist now. And now there are a lot of diverse people doing a lot of things. And it's the same, even like that reflects how it is written. So it's this historical story of the 1700s, but being told through modern music. So it is then being told by now. So that is why it is blind casting, despite being about mostly old white people.
There are a couple other shows that we talked about that we think would be awesome. Now, I've always had a problem with Wicked not being color conscious.
Correct.
Until Brandy is her name, isn't it? That plays, she's Black presenting, and she plays, I think her name is Brandy, that plays Galinda.
Her name is not Brandy. You're thinking of Chicago.
No, they're definitely different people. But I think her name is Brandy.
I don't think her name is Brandy.
Sorry, in the comments, I'll find her name. But I'm not thinking of Brandy that was in Chicago. They are completely different people.
Her name isn't Brandy. I'm like 75% sure. But anyway, yeah, it's crazy that Wicked was on Broadway for as long as it has been on Broadway, and only recently, in the past like year, they had their first Glinda of color.
Especially since it just says she's blonde, not white. She just has to be blonde. That's it.
It also took a really long time for them to have an Elphaba of color, which is stupid because she's green. I think, I might be wrong, but I think Lily Cooper was the first. I really love Lily Cooper. Fun fact about me, I really love Lily Cooper.
She's wonderful. Some other shows where I would love to see color conscious casting is Phantom. Guys.
Give me a Black Christine.
Give me a Black Phantom.
There have been.
Oh, whoops.
Norm Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, love that guy. Saw him in a bodega once. On the Upper West Side.
Oh, you know what I hate? White women singing Summertime.
That is correct. Mm-hmm. That song is not for you.
Brittany. I knew it started with a B. Brittany Johnson. Yeah. Not Brandy. Thank you in the comments. Thank you. Brittany Johnson. And there are some brilliant. I do want to talk a little bit about Disney shows because I think some of them yes, some of them no. Like it gets tricky because of where they're from. So let's talk about. Oh yeah, Summertime. We were talking about Summertime. Summertime, no go, not okay. Don't sing anything from Porgy and Bess, unless you have your own cabaret show.
Even then, it's a little bit questionable.
It is. Yeah, and I also have a hard time if you're gonna sing it, and you are white presenting. You have to do it the way it's supposed to be done. Please don't take out what makes it ethnic so that you're comfortable. That's called appropriation. Don't do that.
Can't just take the things you feel like taking from people of color and then pretend the rest doesn't exist.
Oh, God, it's so uncomfortable. Don't do that. No. Okay, but oh, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so let's go back to this. Les Mis, I have seen a color conscious cast of Les Mis. It was
Yes.
fantastical, wonderful, wicked. Oh, Disney. Okay, so
Mhm.
there are like pros and cons with Disney. There are some, and I don't actually know your opinion on all of these shows, so I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Now, Disney has a specific look for every show because it's based on a cartoon that is of a specific race. So let's first go in the wrong direction to maybe like teach something. The Princess and the Frog, making Tiana.
No.
I don't even get to finish.
No.
Asian.
No, you. No.
Yeah. No.
No.
No,
Absolutely not.
Mulan. Let's make her.
No. Again, no.
Okay, not even get to play. All right, so those shows, like it's right. Okay, Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast doesn't matter.
Why?
Because with a lot of Disney movies, they're written in a way that it's like set in a universe that implies specific time periods and locations.
Mm-hmm.
Some they do specify location. Like I think they do say that Beauty and the Beast is in France. But like,
can Belle be black?
Yes, I think so.
I don't think so.
But
I think any other character could, especially the Beast. Like I'd be super cool with the Beast being black.
I think that because animated movies do kind of exist in their own universe, I think that time period specific kind of casting doesn't really apply in a lot of them.
Okay.
I think with Beauty and the Beast, it would kind of be the same as like time and location wise, it would be similar to Les Mis.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know. They're expecting a brunette white girl. Make her Latina.
I'd love that.
I would love the look, but she needs to have, the accent of the show.
Yeah, of course.
Snow White. It's in her name.
Yeah, and it specifies that she's quite pale.
Quite
pale.
Quite. So don't do that. Cinderella.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, the best version is the one that was made for TV.
Yes.
With Whitney Houston and Brandy and Whoopi Goldberg. And I can't remember any of the men.
No.
They are. Guy plays the king is really famous. Oops. Okay, so movies or shows that it's not okay. We're gonna move on to that.
While we're on Disney, because I know that you and I have different opinions. Frozen.
Oh, I'm okay with everyone except Anna. See, I don't think she should be black.
I think it doesn't matter. Explain your reasoning.
Because again, there's a specific look that your audience is expecting. Alphabet, wrong show. Elsa is so magical, and so like I'm actually cool with her being black, but I'm not okay with Anna.
Here's the thing: is that she has.
I know, and I don't like it.
Continue to be. I really love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it.
Like on Broadway too.
I know.
I love it.
I know. I don't like it. Okay, so we're gonna also talk about a show that she doesn't like, and that's Lion King. It's about animals, yes, in Africa, but the white person is just as good. Or they do have Asian people in the show.
I also think though that a lot of
Latinx.
A lot of the music is very culturally marked in that show.
Mm-hmm. But why can't a white person demonstrate the culture from somewhere else adequately? You don't have a problem with a black person doing it for France in Beauty and the Beast.
Because, okay. That.
Mm-mm. Lion King should be color conscious. Best person for the role. They're puppets. Yeah. And here's my reasoning. Ruthless, the original cast of Ruthless, the musical, which is a mixture of 1960s movies and musicals, that it's loosely based on like All About Eve, where it's about a little girl that like kills everybody. It's incredible. But the best person for the role of the mom was cast as a man. He went out for, and it's an all-woman cast. He went out for the role, and he was the best one for the role, period. And he didn't play it as a man in drag. He played it as a woman. And he was the best person for the role. And that's what I'm saying with Lion King. Now, the likeliness that, us pale folk are going to beat out someone, if you're good, go get it. Because it's not a shit. I'm going to be at the next Lion King audition.
That's the thing, though, is that there are so many people of color who are so good, and there are so many shows that are marked as conventionally white. Whether they should be or not, there are so many shows that are marked as white shows that shows like Lion King are the only shows where they will be seen for. So it's one of those things where it's like, and yet let them have that because there aren't many other options for them. And there are so many phenomenal performers of color who don't have the same options.
But there are amazing shows that are not race specific that they should be seen for, like Mamma Mia.
That's the thing, though, is that in
Chicago,
not talking about the idea of a future, because all of this could change in the future when my generation kind of grows up into the people who are in charge of things, because I think that we are a lot more conscious about this. But
the Gen Zs are just going to be busy on their phones. It'll never happen.
Okay. That was you're not a boomer, but that was a very boomer thing to say. But in the current way that theater is, I think that you do need to keep some roles for people of color, because there are these shows where, again, whether they should be cast color conscious or not, they are cast as white. Whether it affects the story or not, they are cast as white. So as long as people of color can't break into those shows and can't be seen at auditions for those shows, I think that it is important to preserve some roles and some shows for them, just to give performers of color an opportunity to break into the industry and then use their influence being in the industry to try and change that with other shows and work their way into other shows and make end goal theater more inclusive.
Like Brandy did playing Roxy in Chicago.
Yes.
Love Brandy. There's the Brandy name. So shows like Chicago should be color conscious. Mamma Mia, I said. Footloose. Most contemporary shows can be color conscious shows.
Yes, correct.
Songs for New World, like why isn't there a person of color in that show? It's 4 people. Same thing with Next to Normal or Last 5 Years. He needs to be Jewish, but he can be Jewish and black people.
Drake.
Jesus was black. But let's talk about a show where it's not okay. These don't belong here. Whoopsie. Let's talk about a show that's not okay. The Wiz. So that's another one where a high school nearby did The Wiz. Blind.
For reference, we live in kind of the middle of nowhere, suburban Maryland. There aren't a whole lot of people of color.
Yes, they do. Ain't Misbehavin'. Guys, that's a black show.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Even though I love the music.
Don't do that.
I sing Mean to Me in my car when I'm driving alone by myself.
Yeah, where no one can see.
Yeah. It's a girl, black role.
That's not for you.
Watch me! I love the song. But listen, there's so much music out there, and here's our hope is that there is a need for more color conscious casting as long as the implications don't hurt stereotypes or don't propagate stereotypes
Yes.
and don't erase culture
Yes.
and don't erase history. That's what's important. And so to casting directors, to directors, we see eye to eye on that. But if there is an argument, then you should probably err on the side of caution. So if we disagree and we're like, don't do that, and one person's like, no, it's fine, you should probably err on the side of don't do that. Just so that you don't offend your audiences or make them uncomfortable. Remember that the point of theater is to take them to a new world. They shouldn't be distracted by anything that may take them out of the world that you created for them. And if, for some reason, race does that throughout an entire show because it changes or propagates negative stereotypes, then you should not do that. Like Annie, I think her name's Annie, the role of Annie in Oklahoma being Black, that would be a big problem. I can't say no. Don't do that.
Well, also in the most recent revival, she was cast, I forget her name, but as a girl in a wheelchair.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that was fun.
She's fantastic. She won
Yeah,
a Tony.
She was really good.
Yeah.
I saw it when it was before it transferred to Broadway when it was at St. Anne's.
There are problems with that show, but she's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that revival was bad.
Oops.
Hmm.
In the comments, please leave any other shows that you think should not be color conscious.
Yeah.
We would love to hear your opinions. And remember that if there's anything that you would like us to talk about, put in the comments, like, subscribe, share after I edit this video.
Also, write more stories for people of color.
Yes.
Write more stories for people of color. I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. Write more stories for people of color.